Welcome to shanthalakshmiias Academy. In this video, we will be discussing about the articles given in Indian Express, mainly in explained series. The articles are: first, what is PGII? The initiative behind India Mid-East Europe Economic Corridor. Second, the African Union. Third, India's falling cotton production, the causes for worry and the solutions. And the last, G20 statement on health and India's 3 priorities. Now, going into the detail, we know on the sidelines of the G20 summit, there was an MOU signed between various countries to establish India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. The countries were India, US, Saudi Arabia, European Union, UAE, France, Germany, and Italy. So in this context, we should understand what is PGII. So PGII is a partnership for global infrastructure investment. It is a Western initiative for funding infrastructure projects to counter China's Belt Road Initiative. If we go in detail, PGII is a developmental initiative aimed at narrowing the infrastructure gap in developing countries and also to help towards accelerating progress on SDGs globally. It means it's not only for infrastructure projects and also to accelerate the progress on SDGs. If we go to the history, it was initially announced in June 2021 during G7 summit in UK. And this was called as a Build Back Better World by the US President Joe Biden. It was called as Build Back Better World, B3W framework. So, and later in 2022, during the G7 summit in Germany, this PGII was officially launched as a joint initiative to help fund infrastructure projects in developing countries through public and private investments. And they also collectively aimed to mobilize nearly 600 billion from G7 by 2027 to invest in critical infrastructure. This IMEC, as a part of the PGII, and this IMEC was launched as part of the G20 summit in Bali in 2022 itself. So this IMEC comprises of an eastern corridor connecting India to the Gulf region and a northern corridor connecting the Gulf region to Europe. So it will include the railway and the ship, rail transit network and road transport routes. So it will enable economic growth through the integration between the Asia, Arabian Gulf and Europe. So then why it is considered as an alternative to the BRI? We should know what is BRI. So RI is Belt and Road Initiative of the China. It was the brainchild of the President Xi Jinping and started in 2013. The main aim was to revive the ancient Silk Route trade network between China and Europe. This China, in the name of BRI, used to provide loan to the countries for the developmental projects. However, this BRI was criticized by the Western countries because of its unsustainable debts. So, this unsustainable debts made the countries, as per the 2019 World Bank, these countries had to hand over their public assets to the foreign contractors or China itself. And also there were issues related to environmental degradation and corruption. Further, India also opposed the BRI because we know China-Pakistan economic corridor, which connects to the Kashgar in China with Ghadarput in Pakistan, goes via Pakistan occupied Kashmir called Baluchistan. So this actually violated the basic principle of respect for sovereignty and the territorial integrity of India. So as a result, India also wants to have an alternative to the BRI by addressing this issue. So PGI is going to differ from the BRI, as G7 said that it is going to be an initiative which is very transparent, focused on building climate change and resilient infrastructure, and help in achieving objectives of gender equality and health infrastructure development. So, and as per now, there are certain programs were started under PGII. As we said, it launched during the G20 summit in Bali. So there were several projects which related to the clean energy and telecommunication were announced in Indonesia and other countries. And also at the same time, India was also part of this meet at Bali, where US government's International Development Finance Corporation would like to invest over 15 million in India's health infrastructure, mainly to support the expansion of chain of eye clinics for conducting corrective surgery for undeserved individuals, and also to provide safe and affordable hygienic products for underserved women in non-metro areas. So these are the some initiatives started under the PGII. However, is it really going to replace BRI? If we observe the China, after the criticism about the BRI in 2019, China dramatically diminished its overseas infrastructure investments, which are mainly high-risk projects. And also, President Xi Jinping emphasized his commitment to green BRI. And if we observe the scale of the investments that China can raise is going to be higher than that of the G7, because G7 is a group of countries where they need to have a political consensus within their countries for backing these projects. At the same time, they don't have any control over the private sector participation. So maybe in future we have to see whether really PGII is going to be alternative for BRI or not. So coming into the preliminary prospect, there can be a question related to PGI. PGII, the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment, was officially launched in 2021 during G7 summit in the UK. No, it was launched in 2022 G20 summit of Germany. And then PGII is a joint initiative to help fund infrastructure projects in developing countries through public and private investments. Yes, this is true. And the third, PGII is a developmental initiative aimed at only narrowing the infrastructure gap in developing countries. No, it is also going to accelerate the progress for sustainable development goals also. Then only 2 is right. Next, we know that African Union was admitted as a new member of G20 to make it as a G21. So this reflects the priorities of the global South, and also it is providing a voice to the underrepresented continent. So in this context, we should know what is the AU. So originally, there was an organization called Organization of African Unity, OAU, and this was replaced with the African Union in 2002. 2. So African Union is an intergovernmental organization of 55 member states located in the continent of Africa, and its secretariat is located, headquarters is located at Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. And Ethiopia is the only African country where the European empires never colonized. And it is also the second most populous country of the continent. And the main aim of this African Union is to work for the increasing cooperation, stability, and development within the continent Africa. If we go in detail about the membership, we know there are 55 members. However, there are 6 other countries which were suspended, mainly Guinea, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Sudan, Gap, and these 6 countries were suspended from the AU after military coups in respective countries. So, and then why this? When there was Organization of African Unity, why there was a need for the AU to form. So if we go through this Organizational African Unity was mainly aimed to bring the African nations together to resolve their common issues, through the collective action. And their main aim focus was to help liberate these colonized countries on the continent. So for this Organization of African Unity got the support and provided the logistical aid to liberate the countries. And at the same time, it failed to boost political and economic integration among these member countries. In this backdrop, in the place of OAU, the African Union was formed. So the main objectives of the African Union was like to achieve the greater unity and solidarity between the African countries and as well as the people. So it is going to accelerate the process of political, social, economical integration of the continent. And it is also want to address the multifaceted problems like social, economical, political problems of the African nations. And it wants to promote peace, stability, security, and also to protect and promote human rights across the continent. So these were the main objectives of the African Union. Then what are the achievements of the African Union? So African Union as a peacekeeping mission, it actually tackled the terrorism from Sahel to northern of Mozambique. First, it tackled the terrorism. Second, it also prevented the violence in countries. It prevented violence in the countries like Burundi, Somalia, South Sudan, and Mali. Third, it actually also resolved the conflicts in various countries, such as, so it resolved conflicts. For example, if we take Ethiopia, that there was a peace deal brokered by the African Union between the Ethiopian government and Tigray People Liberation Front. So this was another success of African Union. And the last, African Continental Free Trade Area, which came into force 2021. So these are the achievements of the African Union to tackle the terrorism, to prevent the violence in various countries, and also make a peace deals, to also have a free trade area between the African countries. Then, if we see in the geographical mapping, the Sahara is a desert here, Sahel region. If we see, this is the part of the Sahel region, and Mozambique is here. From here to here, AU was able to stop terrorism activities in this location. So, for preliminary aspect, there can be question with regard to African Union. So it is an intergovernmental organization of the 55 member states located on the continent of Africa. Yes, there are 6 member countries in suspension, which includes Mali and South Sudan. No, it's not South Sudan, it's only Sudan. So only one is correct. Next, G20 statement on health, India's 3 priorities. So as we know that in the G20 health track concluded successfully with the 3 important priorities which got consensus from the G20. If we go through these 3 priorities are building resilient systems for health emergency prevention, preparedness and response. Second, strengthening the cooperation in the pharmaceutical sector with focus on ensuring equitable availability, access to the vaccines, diagnostics, therapeutics, etc. And during pandemic, and creating a platform for sharing the digital health innovations and solutions to ensure better and universal health coverage like COVID and e-Sanjeevani in India. However, this consensus was not without any compromises because India did not insist on $200 million fund for digital health program. So there was no consensus with respect to this to mobilize the $200 million of fund to create digital health program. So coming to what is this digital health program? As we know, through the use of digital technology, so digital health innovation is going to have importance in handling the pandemic like COVID-19. So in this background, we wanted to have a platform for sharing a scalable solutions under WHO. With that, in G20 health track, we able to decide to have global initiative on digital health with 4 main pillars. However, due to lack of consensus, we were unable to provide a permanent solution. So, in the place of a permanent platform, a committee recommended to have an intermediate platform to promote end-to-end network for research and manufacturing till a legally binding pandemic treaty can be agreed. It is called intermediate platform for medical countermeasures platform. So it is going to facilitate rapid and equitable global access to quality, safe and affordable MCMs against pandemic threats. So, however, though the outcome also mentions about the inclusive decision making where the low and middle income countries also have their effective representation. However, there is a fear of replication of failure that happened during the ACT accelerator. So what happened in the days during the COVID-19, the access to COVID-19 tools is a groundbreaking global collaboration to accelerate development, production, and equitable access to COVID-19 tests, treatments, and vaccine. However, this was given more voice to the G7 rather than lower and middle income countries. So these lower and middle income countries also thought the same thing can replicate in this MDM, this digital health program too. And also it is understood that the intermediate platform has come from the G7 countries, which are currently hold the majority of the patents for drugs and diagnostics and vaccines. So again, it is going to be have more say to G7 countries rather than the lower middle income countries. So because of the reason that in the place of permanent digital health program, there was only interim or temporary medical countermeasure platform was agreed to develop. The next topic is India's falling cotton production and causes for worry. If we go in detail, cotton, as we know, like coconut, it is a source of all the 3 F's: food, feed, and fiber. And coming to its significance, cotton has a roughly two-thirds share in India's total textile fiber consumption, and it is also country's third largest domestically produced vegetable oil after mustard and soya bean, and its second biggest feed cake after soya bean. Then going into the detail, uh, we know from 2000 to 2001 and 2013 to 2014, India's cotton production was almost tripled from 140 lakh bales to 398 lakh bales. However, in 2022-23, if we observe the production, that this production was reduced to 343.5 lakh bales. So this is the way concerning for cotton production. As we know, this the reason for the increasing in production during the 2000 to 2013-14 was genetically modified cotton hybrids were used. So the genes were isolated from the soil bacterium Bacillus thuringiensis or BT, and these BT genes were coded for proteins toxic to the deadly American bollworm insect pest. So as a result, our cotton production increased and even tripled from 2000 to 2013-14. However, recently the production was reduced. Why? Why? Because of the another pink bollworm PBW called PBW. So what happened originally? So originally the BT taxons you supposed to provide the protection against both American worm and as well as the this pink bollworm. However, in 2014, unusually, the large survival of PBW larvae was detected on the cotton flowers after 60 to 70 days after sowing in Gujarat. And later, in 2015 also, in Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and Maharashtra, PBW larvae was detected on cotton flowers. And similarly, in Punjab and Haryana and northern Rajasthan also saw this heavy infestation of the pest for the first time in 2021 too. So, what is the concerning issue here? So, previously, this PBW used to get in crops latter stages, okay, mainly after the first picking, and also it used to be confined to central and southern India, but now it is also occurred in northern states also. So this is the concerning issue, that it is earlier used to come after the first picking. Now it is coming as early as 40 to 45 days after sowing the seeds. Then it was previously confined to only central, and now it is extended to northern states too. Then what was the issue? The main issue is that we know, as from the South Asia Biotechnological Center, Jodhpur, they understood the PBW is a monophagous pest. Means these are those insects which feed on only on a single species of plants. Whereas if you take American worm, that is a polyphagous pest, and they can feed on diversity of crops. So as a result, this being a monophagous, this enables the PBW to develop resistance to the BT proteins over the time. And at the same time, we know once we introduced this hybrid variety, and the farmers stopped virtually growing non-BT cotton too. So that became resistant from continuously feeding the BT hybrids. So that made the pest to spread over the
cotton crop. So this pest life cycle is 25 to 35 days from egg laying to the adult moth. It means it is going to be conducive to complete it at least 3 to 4 generations in a single crop season. As we know, this cotton production requires nearly 6 to 8 months of the time. So 180 to 270 days. In this period itself, this this PBW is going to have at least 3 to 4 generation of production. Okay, then how to control the pest? So to address this, there was an innovating approach called mating disruption. So mating disruption involves deploying a gauzy floor. So this is called a pheromone chemical, okay, that is secreted by the female PBW moth to attract male adults. So in this case, that in mating disruption technique, the pheromone is artificially synthesized and filled into pipes and lures. So as a result, the male adult moths attracted towards these lures and do not mate with the female during their 7 to 10 days time. So in this process, eggs are not laid and they do not grow into the larvae. Thereby, it cannot become a next generation adults. In this way, we can reduce the production of the PBW pest. So, mating disruption, it involves the use of sex pheromones to prevent male insects finding their females and mating. And what are the pheromones? These are the chemicals produced by an insect to communicate in some way with others of the same species. So, the Central Insecticide Board Registration Committee under the Agriculture Ministry approved two mating disruption products. One is the PB knot, second is the splat for controlling the PBW. So, the ideal time to use this 40 to 45 days after sowing, just when the flowering commences. So, with the result of this field project, the outcome is like this. They have almost reduced the PBW mating up to 90%, and that resulted into 25% higher in Kappa's yields. So we can understand that. Now we can understand with the help of the GM and this insecticide or mating disruption method, we can play an effective role in sustaining the cultivation of this fiber, food and feed crop. Now, in the context of the preliminary exam, there can be a question related to the climate and soil requirement of the cotton. If we go through the details, cotton is a crop of tropical and subtropical areas, and it requires uniformly high temperature between 21 to 30, and the growth of the cotton retarded when the temperature falls below 20, and it requires nearly 2 frost-free days in a year. Otherwise, growth will be retarded. And the modest requirement of water can be average annual rainfall 50 to 100 centimeter. And it is a kharif crop which requires at least 6 to 8 months to mature. And the sowing and harvesting times differ from the different parts of the country. For example, if we take Punjab and Haryana, they can sow in April and May and harvest in December and January. Whereas in the southern part of the India, they can sow in October and harvest between January and May. In Tamil Nadu, the case is different, where it can be grown as a both Kharif as well as the Rabi. And for cotton cultivation, we mainly require the deep black soils, rigor soils of the Deccan and Malwa plate of Gujarat. And also grown in alluvial soils of the Satluj Ganga plain, red and lateral soils in the peninsular region. So this is about the climate and soil requirement for the cotton production. And preliminary point of view, there can be question like this. The crop is subtropical in nature. A hard frost is injurious to its growth. It requires at least 210 frost days and 50 to 100 centimeters of rainfall for its growth. A light, well-drained soil capable of retaining moisture is ideally suited for the cultivation of the crop. Which one of the following is that crop? We know it's cotton. And also there can be like assertion and reason format. Insect resistant transgenic cotton has been produced by inserting Bt gene, and the Bt gene derived from a bacterium, a soil bacterium. So both A and are true. R is the correct explanation. Both A and R true, but R is not correct. A is true, but R is false. A is false, but R is true. So give me the answer in the box. Okay, comment box. So this is all for the day. Thank you.